This is Late Night Health. This is the radio show that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. Hi, I'm Mark Alyn, and along with the insane Daryl Wayne, we're going to spend 2 hours talking about a wide variety of issues that affect each and every one of us. In about a half hour or so, Robert Clancy, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul, we're going to spend a little additional time with Robert today. And we've got 2 segments. Segment 1 with Robert, we're going to talk about, believe it or not, how to get over life's little frustrations. You know, you walk in, you look at your dishwasher, and it's falling apart. How do you not be frustrated? How do you overcome that? You call your insurance company and they say you're pre-authorized for this test. And you get the test and then they send you a bill for $7,000. And I just filed a complaint about that with the California Insurance Commission. We'll see how that goes. But that's our first hour. And we're also going to spend some time with a discussion. Let's see. We're going to be talking about, are you allergic to yourself? And we're also going to talk about stuttering. And yes, I am allergic to myself, Daryl. I thought I'd beat you to it. All right, let us go to North Carolina, I believe. Dr. Tatiana Irvin, the author of The Reluctant Intuitive, A Soulful Confession and Practical Guide. She has on the cover of her book a glass. Is it half full? Or is it half empty? And there are 2 little pills down here next to the glass. We'll find out more about that as well. Dr. Tatiana, welcome to Late Night Health.
Thank you so much, Mark. What a pleasure to be here today.
And it turns out that we grew up next to each other just a few years apart. Right?
Just a few. Very few.
In the San Fernando Valley. Yeah, you young people. You don't even have landlines anymore. What do you mean the reluctant intuitive?
Well, I think that times are changing, and it's a welcome change where quantum physics and mechanics are showing that it isn't so foreign a concept to have abilities that appear to be outside of what we were taught, in school, are part of our brain, part of the mechanics of the mind. Intuition is something that we really aren't encouraged in society to believe is a reality, except maybe, within very close quarters, family members, churches, that type of thing. And so growing up in Los Angeles during the 80s and feeling and sensing people's energy and seeing auras and getting other little, tidbits of information that didn't seem to be something everybody else was picking up on wasn't necessarily the most comfortable way to be raised. It could be awkward, and I felt kind of uncool. So I kept it mostly to myself. I was pretty reluctant to embrace those abilities.
And at the same time, you were raised in a religious family, and that's not something that a lot of religious people embrace.
Well, it's interesting. Biblically or scripturally, and certainly in spiritual, dogma and philosophy, it's spoken of rather freely. So when I would sit in the chapel during the church services and be looking at the speaker and be seeing this movement of energy all around their crown and head and shoulders, and thought, well, this is something everybody can see, obviously, because the artwork out in the lobby and throughout the building suggests that there are halos or light around angelic beings. This is obviously something that's understood, and it only takes offering that information up to uncomfortable parties a few times before you realize not so much.
Was your family aware of your abilities, if you will? And did they try to hold them down?
I wouldn't say that they tried to hold them down. I think that if I suggested that something had been perceived by myself, it was heard and listened to, but there wasn't a lot of embellishment on it. And I learned not to bring up topics that seemed to have a dead end when I did start to discuss them.
And like
so it was
what?
Kind of touch and go.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of that?
Yes. There was a time where I was actually in church services, so I would have thought that this was a good opportunity to share it with family because we were all in the building, and I was in a classroom that was for young women, and I had a sister in the room with me, and everyone went into closing that particular lesson with a prayer, and I felt inclined to open my eyes. I sensed something. And when I opened my eyes, I saw as clear and as real and as solid as any human being in any encounter I've had in a conscious and awakened state. There was an angel standing next to my sister with her hand on her shoulder. And you'd say, well, how do you know it's an angel? Well, you can feel a very significant difference in other human beings as you encounter them on a day-to-day basis, and something that feels like it's otherworldly. It gives off a really intense energy, profound love, warmth, comfort, immediate peace, nothing to be afraid of. And she was looking right at me and smiling. And I remember her so clear, all dressed in white, glowing. And I remember thinking, this is something that I can share. And I remember it being heard and not discouraged, but it was kind of quickly dismissed. And I don't think they meant anything by it. I think it just was one of those things of, well, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Sometimes maybe why her and not me. I don't always know why things are discouraged, but I know that there's a lot that we're each processing when we experience something that seems paranormal or extra-physical, metaphysical, and it's hard enough when we experience it. So it must be that much more challenging to digest for a second party.
We know that we now have a definition of reluctant. You know, you didn't embrace it. I'll use that word again. Let's take a look at intuitive. We've all had those coincidences. We've all had that experience where, gee, the phone's going to ring and it's going to be my sister who I haven't talked to in 6 months. Or George is calling me. I haven't talked to him in 10 years. We've all had those kinds of experiences. Is that
Absolutely.
What intuitive means?
My range of understanding, being an ardent student of all things intuitive, would be yes, absolutely. And that is our calling card to embrace a birthright and a sense that I believe we all have, but that because it is not entrained, because there's no education around it, because there is no folklore and song and I think even familial entrainment in most households, it is not something that we even know to embrace. And what's so exciting, Mark, and fun is the fact that evolving science, mostly in the realm of theoretical science, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, we're learning that there is so much space out there that we are not aware of because our limited senses only see 4% of what's really there. Out of 100%, only 4% is matter, or, you know, the physical world. And so they're starting to recognize particles viewed under electron microscopes and other much more advanced scientific machinery are able to be seen in an invisible world, one that's not within our light spectrum, and appear to be influenced by our thoughts and feelings. And that opens up neuroplasticity and epigenetics and what are the mechanics behind the intuition, because there's going to be a physical aspect of it too. So it's like, let's wake up and everybody embrace their intuition. Can you imagine what the world would be like if we didn't dismiss those nuances and those flashes, as you just said, of knowing?
There's a book out called When God Winks. Are you familiar with it?
I am, absolutely.
It's one of my favorite books. And it's a Squire, I can't think of his last name, but it's an interesting book because it incorporates. Thank you, Daryl. Daryl's going to look that up. Yeah, thank you. It incorporates the fact that God or a higher spirit communicates through coincidences, and that we have to just be ready and open for them. We have to understand that they're there. So, you know, going through life and in the 21st century now with quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and all these really highfalutin, mathematically required sciences and skills, there are studies that show that if the scientists say that the particles that they're shooting are going to go right, they will. Their thoughts are actually moving matter.
Right.
It can go right,
Exactly.
left, or center, whatever, and it doesn't matter. They could be 10 miles away. Squire Rushnell. Rushnell is the author of God Winks, When God Winks, and he's got a series of books, and he's a speaker. But you try to be open to that. Would that also incorporate intuitivity?
Unquestionably. I know that Albert Einstein, who really struggled with the quantum models because he wanted everything to be so easily replicable, as most physicists do, he called it spooky action at a distance. I think it's a really fun way for him to have described it, given, I'm sure, his extensive vocabulary. But he proved that separating anything molecularly and moving its counterpart even to the other side of the world, if you influence it in one location, its molecular counterpart would respond accordingly, even at vast distances, hence spooky action at a distance. So,
we're gonna take some time out, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Dr. Tatiana H. Ervin, the author of The Reluctant Intuitive. By the way, her PhD is in philosophy, so we'll philosophize a little bit as we return here on Late Night Health. We invite you to join us at latenighthealth.com, latenighthealth.com. All right, more coming up. Daryl and I return. Don't go away.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. To think like an angel, you just have to see the love that's within all of those around you. It's as simple as sharing what's in your heart. When you think, act, and love just like an angel, there's little difference between you and these beautiful celestial beings. When you awake, begin your day in gratitude for something in your life. Start your day by embracing the first person you meet with a hug and a kiss. If you encounter someone in need, help them. It's as easy as sharing a smile or a kind word. And most importantly, love, love, love. It's that simple.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenighthealth.com.
If you or someone you love suffers from drug addiction, now is the time to utilize your private health insurance PPO plan. If eligible, receive up to $30,000 or more in substance abuse benefits with low or no out-of-pocket cost. We are the National Treatment Network, the premier drug and alcohol treatment referral service operating 24/7. We help connect you with facilities nationwide that accepts PPO private health insurance for substance abuse. If you have PPO substance abuse coverage and you need immediate admittance to a medical detox or residential rehab treatment center, call us now. Call our live referral helpline today. The call is free. This program is not available to Medicare or Medicaid customers.
Call 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. That's 800-296-1252.